and the inaugural Outcast Cruiserweight Champion, K.
Yo, what is good, y'all? It is your mother's favorite fighter, and we're here today with a little different kind of video. Outcast 04 just happened this past weekend, and we're gonna go through and we're gonna give our thoughts on the event, the fights, and everything in between. Let's start off with how the event ran. It was a pre-recorded event. Downside of this event was it came, I'm pretty sure, 2 days after it was recorded. That's unfortunate due to some technical difficulties that they had experienced. Running events of ourselves, we run through the same thing, so give them grace there. I know what they go through to produce these events for people. A lot of people don't understand the ins and outs of it, but it's all right. You live and you learn. That doesn't mean that the event was a failure. I think the event was very good. I think this is probably one of the best Outcast events they've produced and one of the best UK shows produced thus far. They had, like I said, they had technical difficulties. They had to work with what they had, and I think with what they had, they produced a very well show. Moving into the first fight, we have Ben Rogers versus Jamie Brown. I feel kind of gutted for Ben Rogers, going through a training camp and, putting in this hard work just to show up on fight night, and your opponent just cowering away. Like, he didn't even get punched, and he's turning around, running around, and flopping his body to the canvas, resulting in, I'm pretty sure it was a first round stoppage for Ben Rogers. So shout out him for getting the stoppage, but, Jamie didn't put up much of effort, which was very disappointing to see. So hopefully Ben Rogers' next time out, he has an opponent that's going to fight back and give a good show. Overall, I rate that fight a 1 out of 10. No fault to Outcast or to Ben Rogers. All fight to Jamie Brown. Next up, you had Iceman making his long-awaited SCB debut. How else can you make a better debut than that? He went in there, showed complete domination, styled on the kid, got him out in the first round. Can't ask for nothing better for Iceman. I know he has a fight with, I'm pretty sure, McGarry coming up soon, so good luck to him on that. And hopefully that fight can showcase more skills and give us a better understanding of where he is in the scene. I rate that fight a 6 out of 10. Next up, you got a UK OG and Aaron the Carrot, who main evented the very first event in UK SCB history, SCB 001. I'm not too sure who his opponent was, but he went in there, he dominated the fight, and picked up the second round stoppage. The fight wasn't very entertaining. There's not much skills or technicality behind any of Aaron the Carrot's fights, but he got the job done with the second round TKO. So I'll go ahead and rate that fight a 4 out of 10. Moving on to my main event, Juicy Osama, Jake Paul Mafia. He's a big supporter of the Jake Paul community, and I gotta back my mans for that. Then you got another UK OG and Ohms. He's been in the scene for a while, finally making his debut in what was a very interesting fight. I think Juicy Hut had an amazing debut. He was a very dominant 3-0 decision. I thought the fight should have been stopped, or could have been stopped multiple times. I thought it should have been stopped in the second round for sure. Within all 3 rounds, Juicy got hit, I think, less than 5 times in total. So that goes to show, the level he displayed. So shout out Juicy Osama for getting the W, and I'll rate that one a 7 out of 10. Moving on to a potential fight of the night, you have Gibbs versus Hobbs. This was an absolute banger, a fire fight from start to finish. Me personally, I scored the fight in favor of Hobbs, but it was a draw. The outcome wasn't bad. I can understand the draw. I've seen some people on Twitter saying Gibbs won, some people on Twitter saying Hobbs won. So the draw seems fair. People say not every fight needs the rematch, but this fight could definitely use one down the line. I'll rate this fight a 7.8 out of 10. It was one of my most favorite fights in the card. Moving on to a fan favorite fight. We had the mystery opponent versus the mystery opponent, who turned out to be Ethan GBUK versus Chapel. Now, it was an exhibition, so neither guy was going out there to kill the other guy. But nonetheless, they went out there, put on a good show, entertained the people, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day, because this is SCB. So, like Chapel said, you either love it or you hate it. I'll rate it a 5 out of 10. Moving on to a rematch, we have Forrest versus Dimes. I'm not too fond of their first encounter, but it seemed like the build-up, or some talk within the build-up, got pretty personal, because once the fight started, you had Dimes in there showboating, emoting, and trash talking the whole way to a very dominant victory. I gotta go back and watch the first fight, but at least the second fight was very one-sided. Jake Jake didn't really seem like he wanted to be that much in the fight, but he stuck through, made it to the final bell. And like I said, Dimes went in there and kind of did what he needed to do. He got through the jab, showed good head movement, and coming in inside very well. And you know, he took the W. This again was one of the favorites of mine on the night, but I'll give it a rating of 6.3 out of 10. Next up, you got what seems to be the favorite of Outcast boxing, Cheesy Too Dizzy versus Thomas Kelly. This fight was very interesting again. It was a short notice fight. Cheesy Too Dizzy comes out with potentially the stoppage of the night. I mean, he floors this Thomas kid multiple times with some pretty nasty shots. I'm pretty sure the finishing shot was a clean uppercut that drops Thomas. And what more could you ask for in a Cheesy Too Dizzy performance? You know, I'll give that a rating of a 7 out of 10. Now this next fight is not only my favorite fight on the card, but probably my favorite fight in the UK scene ever. We got Hamish TV versus Leon Howard. Hamish picks up his win. You know, he's seeking redemption. Leon making his debut. I believe the fight to be a draw. It was a very back and forth fight. You know, Leon Howard being the clear, better, and more technical boxer, but Hamish bringing the fight in very wild spurts of combos. You know, making Howard uncomfortable and you know, gun shy at that time. I think this fight should definitely be run back some point in the near future. Maybe let Leon get another fight under his belt before the rematch. I think both guys look good. Leon, like I said, displayed very good technical skills, and I think they both have a good stance in the scene moving forward. I'll give that fight a rating of 9 out of 10. Next up, the co-main event, we have Anton Bell, honorary American. And he absolutely destroys Mason Brown. You know, I thought this Mason Brown guy was going to give up a lot harder of a fight. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe Anton was just a way better fighter, a way bigger puncher. But Anton gets rid of him in the first as Mason quits on the stool. And Anton claims his throne as the face of the UK SCB scene. And finally, the main event, the controversial decision that's now resulted in the rematch. The main event, Outcast 04, for the Cruiserweight title. Fighting with Jay versus K5. 5-round bout can be summed up very easy. K5 dominated fighting with Jay. You know, bouncing in and out of range, jabbing down to the body, throwing body, head, completely outboxing Jay. And Jay not really having to answer all night. You know, Jay was in there. He is the tall, rangy fighter himself. He tends to fall in love with brawling and fighting inside, and you know, going against another tall, rangy fighter in K5 who understands the basics and you know, how to fight with his style, and you know, just a jab heavy fighter, and that's how both guys should have been fighting. It should have been a very technical bout. Jay seemed to have gassed early due to the body work from K5, and you know, that's all you can ask for a K5 performance. Very dominant. Congratulations on becoming the champion, and definitely one of the better fights of the night, and I'll give that a rating of a 7.3 out of 10. Now overall, this event, like I said earlier, was probably one of the best Outcast events and maybe even UK events. I think this event obviously could have some changes to elevate it. But once again, with technical difficulties, you can only work with what you have. I think Outcast produced the best they could with what they had, resulting in a score of a 7 out of 10 in total. Great event to Outcast. Thank you guys for coming in, tuning into this video. Make sure y'all like and subscribe for next time. It was your boy, your mother's favorite fighter. We'll see y'all later.
Outcast 4 is in the books. Ladies and gentlemen, for everyone here, thank you very much for everything you have done. Thank you for being part of it. And everyone watching tomorrow night, thank you for tuning in. It's been ups, it's been up, downs, it's been chaotic, nuts, bonkers, crazy, everything under the freaking sun. But I love it here. So does all these fighters, and so does everyone who turns up. Outcast is our best from the Wild Wild West, and we are here to stay, we're here to grow. This is our show. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.